the center, or split forces. In general, the map is not easy to play on. Teams often use blind shots and risky shifting of the forces from one flank to another.
So, going over the lineups, eClipse bringing 215B, a 113, an Object 430, TVP, a 50B, another 215, and a T54 lightweight. Meanwhile, Siebel the Tweet.
Like you said before, they kind of took a little piece of everything there.
Yeah, so they do have the double 215Bs, however, 50B, 430, a 113, TVP. Like I said,
interesting.
One of everything off the shelf.
Very interesting lineup. And then for Team CD, we actually see 3 113s, 2 Batchats, a Grill, and a 251.
Yep, and just like that, CB setting up pretty standard attack. They just have the Grill lurking in the middle. The 113s have moved towards the 6th line. Nice shot there.
But unfortunately no penetration. Oh, Gabe is being found, though, in that 251. As he finds himself in a poor situation. Tigers in the T54 lightweight. Knows that he's there. He's now delit.
And eClipse have just read this situation so well. They understand this push is coming out. They're moving that 113 to where he is safe. They're sitting here blocking this 6th line. And I expect to see the rest of these tanks over in the Delta Village just come crashing down on these 113s because they should recognize that they are completely isolated from these Batchats making the push through the north.
And nobody's home north, but Ex-Soldier is definitely not going to sit on cap, and neither is Smiley.
So those Batchats are going to lose their shots here now, as Merles takes a lot of damage. Master Pupil trying to work that window as best he can.
Mort and Brenna taking a considerable advantage. Mort is 1 shot away from going down.
Now, Vetro and Tigers came in behind. Drock's just going to push around.
And here we have another fight rename going down to Drock. Fixer Reloaded going to try to take him out for a trade, but Tigers, the entire team of eClipse has surrounded Fixer Reloaded, and he is going to go down.
If you want to talk about running outdated strategies, just look at what Siebel the Tweet just did. Play pretty much telegraphed at that point. Standard lineup.
Oh, nice shot.
The 113s got spotted on the 6th line. The Batchats were nowhere to be found. They had good intel in the south, so they knew the Batchats weren't down there. So if they're not down in the 0 line, they have to be off in the town. They know that split was coming down. They moved that 113 quickly to get with everyone else out of those Batchat guns.
This is just over for a CD, unfortunately. Their first battle against eClipse on attack here on Ruinberg is going to be potentially one of the quickest losses I've seen on this map so far.
Yeah, well, like I said, it was a very telegraphed defense attack from CD. Not a groundbreaking strategy by any means, and eClipse knew exactly how to respond to it. They understood that they were going to be given that overmatch on the 113s. The TVP and the lightweight came in behind. The 50B and the 215Bs just came across that F line. They got in there. They got around those 113s. They created that overmatch that we've been talking about all night.
Yep.
They got their, essentially at that point it was 7 guns on the 3 113s where the Batchats couldn't support.
Right.
And that grill was all the way off in the town.
Fixer just got surrounded and taken out so quickly.
And that's going to be a 1-0 lead in favor of eClipse.
So I still am a little optimistic, though, in favor of Team CD getting a few rounds here. Again, we both favor eClipse. I don't think anyone is surprised by that. But, I mean, I think a 5-3 is possible, but it depends on how CD kind of react to eClipse, especially after this first game.
I don't want to call it cookie-cutter strategies out of CD, but that's pretty much as standard as an attack as you can get on Ruinberg these days. And against a team like eClipse, they recognized it. They said, all right, they're not doing anything special. There's no Batchats in the south.
Immediately punished.
And they just surrounded, jumped on it, took the overmatch. And those Batchats weren't really able to be effective. They did get some damage on that 113. I believe it was Merles drifting towards the south, but nothing he could really work.
Yeah, and I mean, Vetro, again, he is the top dog as far as damage goes. And showing so again right here, 3,500 damage, followed very closely by T1 Diabetic. And then Pompous Magnus is actually pretty solid as well on damage, but then it drops off quite drastically. We see Smiley Rage down there in the 6th slot doing only 1,800, especially in a bad chat. And then there is the rest of Team CD, followed by Mort in the 113, who actually went down very fast.
Yeah, no, certainly, and not really too much of Mort's fault. He was that 113 that got focused out
right
as he came from the north. However, he drew a lot of those shots from the bat chats. He then turned around and said, hey guys, these bat chats both fired.
Yeah, here they are.
And then they just collapsed on those 113s. They knew that they only had a few shots left, if any, if they weren't reloading. And so they just pushed in. They had that overmatch. And as soon as they cleaned up those 113s from CD, it was over.
That was it. So we'll have to see. I mean, Ruinberg definitely could be said to be a more defensively sided map. Most
I don't
kind of are.
not even going to hint at it. It is a defensively sided map in the way it sits right now. There is no way of justifying that it's not. It's a defense has to make an astronomical mistake for a team to pick up a win on there, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, then it's up to CD then to not throw this away if that's what you're saying. So.
Yep. Now when there is a difference between two teams, with eClipse having the amount of experience they have, if they just are able to outplay you individually, then that's where that map can be decided.
Right, of course. I mean, there's still definitely a chance for offense to win because we've seen it happen.
Yep.
We've seen top teams do it, Apex and eClipse both respectively.
If two even teams play each other on Ruinberg, the defense will win 99%
it should be
of the time.
1-1, essentially.
Yep.
All right, well, we're about to find out if CD can make that adjustment and get ready to defend here on Ruinberg as we head into the second battle of the series between these two teams.
And this lineup.
Wow. So Team CD bringing 5 bat chats and then 2 tier 9 bat chats. Or no, excuse me, that is Team eClipse. Again, that was backwards. Apologies for that. So Team eClipse is going to bring 5 bat chats and then 2 tier 9 bat chats, whereas CD is going to bring 4 113s, 2 bat chats, and a 251.
So Siebel to tweet on the defense here. They are pushing those bat chats down the 0 line.
Oh, Tiger's getting turned around a little bit. Going for a little bit of a stunt there. I like it. That's what I like to see.
Very aggressive play. And just look at this. These 113s aren't stopping. They're looking for this push out of eClipse. The bat chats are moving down to the south to open up this crossfire, and they're making it almost impossible for eClipse to move right now.
Shots coming on to Drock and Master Pupil. Oh my goodness. Really solid start for CD. Drock goes down. Master Pupil is 1 shot away.
Now, this was better out of CD. I like this opening play. They said, all right, they've brought this lineup before. They tend to play very aggressive towards the 0 line. So they pushed their own bat shot straight down the 0 line, and their 113s had no reason not to be very aggressive.
Master Pupil falls the Pompous. And they are just going straight for that 1 cap, as well as those 2 bat chats of eClipse.
And really what it comes down to at this point is just a lineup mismatch. eClipse picking a great lineup to deal with this many bat chats out of eClipse, or CD, which is a great lineup, excuse me. And they brought those 4 113s. Those 113s, if there is one thing that they're good at, or an easy way to describe them, they are great anti-medium tanks. They're not necessarily the best heavy brawlers for those brawls with our heavy tanks, but against medium tanks, a 440 alpha gun, very fast, pretty good armor. They're great at taking those head-to-heads with other mediums. And so far, they've just shut down any sort of play that eClipse has made.
This is quite a massive lead here for Team CD to start out the second battle. So this is something I like to see.
I'll have to see if they get lit rotating towards the south. Tigers doesn't get lit. They do light rename, however, they ignore the fact he's there. They don't try to go for it, and they do get all their tanks back into the south. Now, here's the problem for CD. These 2 tanks are caught out, and they may be able to catch them out while they're unsupported from the rest of the team of Siebel to Tweet. So they are going to find this RU-251 down here who hasn't actually spotted them yet. They're using that building as cover, and now it's Vetro that does get spotted.
All right, we are actually going to go into a little listen-in on Team eClipse.
Just keep pushing up 0. We gotta try and kill Smiley. Like the 0 line. This way.
Got 5.
Okay, I got 4. Keep going all the way down 0.
Go for the
all
right
the way
side.
down. We can take full
Trying to shoot
rotate.
you.
Take full control of this line. Don't yell into the 113s. Full control of 0 line.
I'll try to hang back.
Why?
Go ahead, T1. Go.
Do we have extra crossfire going?
Shots on Fixer. You won't have a... I'm hanging
Where
back
am I
here
pushing
for
this
shots.
2 shots.
We're
Soldiers
gonna
coming over
push
here.
into T1 and Vetro. T1, I wouldn't go down any further, you're gonna die.
Well, we have to at least establish the edge.
Just have shots on next soldier. You got shots that left or what? No, I'm loading.
Wow, so a little bit of a disagreement there from Team eClipse, and miscommunication almost, it sounds like, as Team CD pretty much cleans this one up, James.
Well, they weren't in a good situation to begin with. This is one of those situations where you're just trying to make the best out of a bad situation. I do like the idea there that was called out, take control of the zero line instead of taking the engagement, try to set up a crossfire. However, those 113s, like I said, they're just great anti-medium tanks, almost bully tanks, as you will.
Right.
They were just able to push in there, find the isolations. You know, they just took those bat shots head to head, and they could just outfocus fire them. They had the consistent fire. Those bat shots, as soon as they fired all their shots, were going to be out.
Something interesting to note, Master People actually told T1, he's like, I wouldn't push that far, you're going to die, and T1 is actually the last tank alive.
Yep. So
It's not like a knock on Master People. I just find that interesting because, I mean, from our point of view, to be honest, T1 probably should have got taken out first.
yeah,
And that was a decent
it is a
call.
bit of a low ground in the north, but they chose to ignore him and let him go down there, and they just went for the main forces inside the village. Once they're in those village with those 113s, that's the spot where they really are going to be able to outplay those bat shots, where there's tight corridors that they can't really move around. They can keep their frontal armor towards them, and they can make it really hard for those bat shots to move. So they opted, all right, let's not go towards the crossfire. Let's not push out into the open towards that bat shot up north, which they didn't have that great shots on to begin with.
Right.
And they just took the engagement in the town.
And again, it was there was a little bit, not necessarily like arguing, but there was some disagreements definitely happening within those comms of eClipse, and CD played that very well. Very well.
Yep, well, they
Granted, you said it was defense.
was defense, and I think it was a good, solid counter to what Eclipse were doing. And they understood they've been bringing this lineup with a lot of bat chats, trying to be aggressive, and CD was having none of it, just brought those 113s, and like I said, just great anti-medium tanks, and they did exactly that.
Yep, and then we see, I mean, the top three is going to be a CD with Mareel, Fixer, and Ex-Soldier, so in a very good spread.
Yep, and ironically enough, well, not ironically enough, but the next map is going to be rather interesting. Have to see if the lineup that I think is coming through will come through.
Yeah, it's going to be Murovanka, a map we actually haven't seen tonight, I don't believe.
No, we haven't so far at this point.
Haven't. We might have seen it had we gone into any more games with the last series of 07 and high, but we didn't. And then, again, once more to remind you guys, just in case you didn't hear us earlier, Mines is going to be the map of overtime if we so need it.
Nope, we won't see it during regulation for this match, though. So
Nope.
the next couple of maps up will be pretty interesting. One of them we actually haven't seen too much this season. So
No, and it's going to be Steps and Cliff coming up after Murovanka if we get that far. So.
Yep. So it is 1-1. Murovanka, looking at it so far, I have to favor Eclipse. A lot of what they've been doing has been very solid, and it does look like they're starting out on attack. So kind of an interesting lineup here, which we'll have to look at in just a moment.
Yeah. Also, remember, guys, just let us know how you feel about the matches that are happening. Make sure you're following us on social media at WGLNA and then using the hashtag WGLNA to just join in the conversation, join in on our conversation on your own. Let us know your thoughts on certain tank lineups, certain players on certain teams, maybe how your fantasy team is doing, anything. Really, we do get those tweets from you guys, and we do retweet them, and we like reading them as well as responding them to you. It's been really fun so far. Social media has been pretty fun. Yeah,
Great little banter between me and Dwight the other night. So Dwight definitely got the better of me again.
Well, let's just get right into it. Map number 2.
Murovanka, a map with a great number of buildings, bushes and trees, amongst which teams hide for most of the battle. The attacking team begins the battle from the top of the village, and the defenders start from the bottom of the map. Both bases are better controlled from the hill near the first base, and from the green in the lower left corner of the map. There are many attack directions. The attacking team often attempts to gain the attention of defenders by putting pressure on the first base, whilst manoeuvring several tanks behind the second base to deliver fire into the defending's flank. Team setups are very diverse, but the players often choose the fastest tanks, even for heavy setups. They could even bring SPGs.
Alrighty, here we go into battle number 3, map number 2 here for Eclipse versus TD, and it is tied up, James.
Yep, so eClipse bringing an E5, an Action X, T62A, a Grill, 2 Batchets, and an RE251.
We see Vetro a lot in that Action X, by the way. I just want to point that out.
And then CD making this very aggressive play up the 4 line, bringing 2 113s, 3 Batchets, a T10, and a Tier 9 Batchet. And essentially what they're doing right now is they've just pushed all the way up the 4 line. They're making sure that there is nothing over here, and this will give them pretty much full map control for pretty much the rest of the game unless they misplay it. So the Batchet making that push out north, the heavy tank's just chilling out here in the middle. They know they don't need to drive all the way up there, and they want to be in position to respond to a south play if that's what comes about it.
Yeah, depending on how Team CD plays this, they actually could be in the lead for this series, which would be a huge confidence booster for these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rename just sitting here in the bush in that Batchet Tier 9. So we'll have to see if eClipse will take the time to dig out any lights they have in there. Meanwhile, Tigers will spot X-Soldier and Reload, so they will know they're coming in. And it looks like the rest of the team of CD, or excuse me, of eClipse is just going to go ahead and push towards the north. And eClipse looking for some sort of rotate through the backfield, so they've gone all the way over towards the 0 line. And they're just looking to catch some tanks out. Maybe they're isolated, seeing what they can find. They know these 113s have been very aggressive, and it's actually the Batchets from CD that have actually shifted for the most part back down south. It's just this one Batchet of Pompous up in the north.
Yeah, and it looks like CD is actually cutting the map off quite well for themselves for eClipse, kind of giving them nowhere but one direction to go.
Meanwhile, Pompous does spot Action X, a Vetro, and Tigers in that RE251.
All right, let's go ahead and, as you say that, let's listen in once more to eClipse.
Okay, I'm gonna start being more aggressive towards 113s then. They're running away.
Watch for the bats being south as well, though.
Okay.
Just as soon as we're in position, just aim in, hit our shots, we're okay. Try and keep them lit.
Try to keep them lit then. Don't even try to get shot.
Want me to try spotting the guy that was like right there?
Yeah, if you can.
All right.
I'm spotting across. I'm not getting any lights.
Here, Drock, start looking there. Start looking up.
Okay.
Or north.
We need to try and we need lights on the 113s. I'm trying to crest for it, but did they escape?
Yeah, they went fast.
We need to counter push south now. Okay, we need to take the south. Like we can't keep. Heavies, go ahead and go south. Scent, go south. I'll watch the north. Bats, go ahead and wrap around. All right. Come back.
Can we go all the way?
Now.
All the way, or
let's just win. Just the normal way. Just go together, okay? I'll come back to A7. Be able to light. Because we already dealt with the northern threat. Since that guy's not here, Drock, you can stay in the area, okay?
Okay, that's well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start blind flying then.
Okay.
I'm going all the way to the K line, so.
Yep, understood.
I'll wait for you guys to get there before I go.
All right, I gotta say, really good presence of mind there from Tigers, kind of controlling his lineup and doing a really good job of realizing where the threat is and where they need to be.
Yeah, I kind of actually almost kind of disagree with their calls to go back south. They wasted 5 minutes, reflexing towards the north looking for a push, and they haven't even gotten to the point where they need to clear for any medium or light
they
tanks.
didn't really get any lights either.
So they don't know that this cap's clear yet, and so they wasted 5 minutes doing that. At that point, once you've already rotated back to the north, you've burned essentially at this point 5 minutes. Why not just take the engagement up in the north, or try to find an isolation on those heavies? So just questions to ask. Meanwhile, Tigers. Ramesh People, does get over here to this building. Meanwhile, the other Batchet is going to go ahead and push through of Brett. He will get lit as well.
Yeah, again, I almost have to disagree with you in the sense that I do like the push in the south, though, from eClipse. I like this. And I completely understand your reasoning as well, though. I mean, they did take quite a bit of time, less than 5 minutes now to get there. But for the most part, this looks to be the better play.
Yep, and they still haven't quite figured out where Rename is. Which
it is really interesting, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. To really get in the minds of these callers, though, and understand exactly what they're thinking, or what they're saying. And as I say that, Brett taking a shot there to the front plate.
And they will start some cap pressure with that RU. However, T is going to get
that
lit.
was his back. I apologize.
Yep, and like I said, they still have that passive scout in there, so they can't put any cap pressure on. Tigers got lit, took a shot of damage, and was able to bail out without dying. A little bit fortunate that more guns weren't in position to punish.
It seems as though you're actually right. Maybe the push to the south wasn't the correct play.
With the amount of time to make that south play work, you need the full 10 minutes essentially, and you need a plan when it comes to finding a passive scout. You have to assume that there's at least one passive scout, and you need to come up with some sort of system to getting it down. Tigers is going to make the approach towards cap, and he's going to get lit before he can even get on it. So there's no way for him to start any sort of cap pressure if he's constantly being lit.
Right. And now eClipse find themselves in a mostly unfavorable situation as they go into it with only 3 minutes left. However, it is important to note as well that eClipse have definitely come back from unfavorable situations.
Yep, so...
Oh my goodness, speaking of which, Fixer Reloaded. I am so sorry, my friend.
Yep, no, this isn't over yet. However, Eclipse not looking too great. T1 Diabetic getting caught out with his bat chats.
Putting a nice shot onto Pompous, but he should be going down here in just a moment. And there it is. Pompous fighting the shot in the bat chat. Wart, meanwhile, taking down Gabe. And this T62A. And then we see Drock going down to rename. Trade after trade. And honestly, these trades so far have been in favor of CD.
Yep, well, pushing into a fortified position like that is not easy.
Nice
However,
focus and a good flick there from Vetro in the Action X.
Vetro top of the league, or close to top
Close
of the league,
to top
on
of the league.
63 kills. So actually in
Canadian
second.
Impact is in first, yeah.
Yeah, he's in second in total kills. Now, the thing is, there's only 2 minutes left. HP is up by 500 in favor of CD, but they have one less gun alive than Eclipse. However, they even it up as I say that.
Brett, yeah, and clean it up. And something, again, to remind everyone of is there's only 1 minute and 45 seconds left, and Eclipse has to cap or take out all the tanks of CD, and I guarantee you that bat chat sitting in the very back for Team CD, which is actually Smiley Rage. I was looking for the player. He is probably going to sit back a little bit. The only reason I would see him pushing forward is to really get that reset if the time was winding down to the point where it was getting dangerous. But this is in CD's favor right now, in my opinion.
Yep, and Master People is going to take the push around, find the shot onto that 113.
X-Soldier, and here comes Smiley from around the corner. And Muriel and Smiley are going to take him out. Vetro is so close to going down. Mort is going to find Muriel. Vetro is going to go down. That's it. There's no way that they can cap. Now it's up to Mort to take out the 2 tanks of Smiley and Pompous, and I don't really see that happening, especially with only 73 hit points.
Failed ram coming in there, and it does take an actual shot from Pompous to finish him off.
Team CD is going to take a lead against Eclipse.
Not too bad there. I do like the rather aggressive play, the solid clearing of the 4-line. I like it. It's a very clever, decisive plan that could backfire against them if their team, say, takes a solid 2-line defense, or not defense, but attack, and they could kind of isolate some tanks there, but relatively minimal risk. They pushed up there, they made sure it was clear, and then they were able to shift over. They kind of made Eclipse worry about having to deal with the forest or some sort of push coming in behind, which that costs, Eclipse a couple minutes to rotate tanks up through the north, get around and kind of check to wait for that brawl, and then they said, all right, well, they're not coming, so what do we do now? And then they made that play back in the south, which, as I said, I wasn't a big fan of that decision.
I honestly thought they could have taken it in the south, but you were right. You were absolutely right.
They just didn't leave themselves enough time to deal with any sort of passive tank and or just have a game plan. Every time Tigers tried to go towards that cap, the passive scout of Rename was sitting there
was
landing
completely passive, and they had no reason not to be. And Smiley Rage, again, doing so much damage. He's currently ranked 3rd, and there's another 4,400 to add to that to that number. Master People and Vetro coming in as well, doing really good damage, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. Brett and T1 in the grill got some shots off, did some decent damage, 1400, but not enough as he went down very quickly to Smiley and Pompous, I believe it was. So CD's playing great.
Yep, solid game plan out of them. They made that nice push through the north, and then they made sure not to overextend. Eclipse, kind of predicted that they were making that push through the north once they didn't spot anything, and then Tiger spotted those heavies through there. And it was very good for them to realize, all right, the gig's up. We know we're spotted, so let's not force it. They're going to be ready for it. They're going to be looking for it, and they have time to react. So let's just back out once we got delit. So they readjusted, and they just made it hard for Eclipse to really get a read on them. So good stuff there out of CD.
Honestly, my bold prediction of 5-3 may not be so bold.
No, not with a CD playing like that. A solid game plan, a lot better than that opening round on Ruinberg. So,
yeah, and honestly, something feels off with Eclipse this week, especially listening to comms a little bit. I mean, do you feel that? Like,
some teams kind of operate like that, where some players have more, not necessarily more influence, but there's not one caller per se. It's a lot of the players, timing in, and it's them trying to work it together and figure it out without one person having to make those decisions. With 07 earlier, it was very clearly Fosta listening to everything and then saying, all right, this is what we're doing. This seems to be kind of more of a team decision. Well, what about this? What about this? You shouldn't do that. And all the teams all players working with each other. And what can be a very powerful system, it can also backfire. And on nights like tonight, kind of not working out for them.
Right.
Looking at lineups, Eclipse coming in with 2 Bat Chats, 2 215Bs, an STB, a 140, and an RE 251. Meanwhile, CD bringing a 113, an IS-7, 2 Bat Chats, a grill, and 2 Tier 9 Bat Chats.
I'm interested to see how CD is going to try to take this on offense. Oh wow, shot already on a Tiger. If they take him out now, that could be absolutely huge. That is a passive tank sitting in a bush that they do not have to worry about.
It's actually lit as he runs away. We'll have to see if they find any more shots on him. He does get delit. It's actually going to be Brett that they leave in the south to be the passive. And actually, he's going to run away now just to make sure nothing's chasing Tigers. And they are both going to drive away. Very similarly, looking at it, Eclipse just making this push up the 3 line, and I do like this out of them. They're taking control of both the north and the south end of this 3 line. This high ground here provides an absolutely essential crossfire to holding this defense. The tanks down at G3 can shoot up towards the ones at the north, and the ones in the north can shoot south. And so it makes it very hard to approach from anywhere in the middle. Your best bet is to hard push around on one of the edges, up on either the A line or the J line, essentially.
So what do you think is the easiest way to take this on offense? I mean, obviously there isn't really an easy way, but what would be the way that you would recommend?
Once they have control of that 3 line, like
Gabe,
Eclipse do.
Real quickly, just taking so much damage, but sorry, continue.
Yeah, once they have control of that 3 line like Eclipse do, pushing into it's almost not an option. There are still some things you can do. You can try to mass up and take one group. But your best play at this point is making sure that you have any passive scouts gone, and you can start some cap pressure and make them move and be set up for them. But just sitting here trying to attack this is a very solid defense you'd have to attack. And it's not a situation that you'd really want to force yourself into. Meanwhile, Fixer does take a shot of damage from Master People.
So is this a tank then you would obviously want to bring more heavy tanks onto?
See, the heavy tanks don't give you the same flexibility that, say, a Bat Chat or a bunch of 140s could. With the Bat Chats, you would at least have the speed to kind of jump on one of those angles, maybe find an overmatch somewhere, which you wouldn't have for very long, but you need that speed to be able to have it, which is why a lot of these teams tend to bring, at least a handful of Bat Chats or 140s.
Right. And they will bring the heavy tank to kind of sit on cap as well, we've seen before.
And or to just be an anchor tank. Looking at the IS-7 right now, he's pushed through the village, and he's sitting there trying to light for the rest of his team. So far, Siebel this week coming out on the back end of those trades there.
We are seeing a little bit of cap pressure, though, coming out of Team CD. And it is Pompous as Vetro and Drock. We're trying to find shots, but still nothing. 55 seconds remaining on this cap pressure, as well as 6 minutes and 30 seconds left on the overall clock. So this is not necessarily the worst situation for CD, although the trades definitely were not in their favor.
Now eClipse is making this push through the north.
Interesting.
Tigers is cleared all the way up towards the A-line, and it's the batch out of Mort and the STB of T1 Diabetic that's going to go ahead and push through the north end of town.
Oh, and X-Soldier is still in the middle there. They're going to spot the tanks, and they're going to spot the movement. This could be good for Team CD if they're able to capitalize on what they've been shown. X-Soldier is going to take some damage, though, but again, the front of that I-7 so hard to penetrate. So many shots are bouncing off of his tank as he's still getting damage on a Master Pupil. Mort very close to going down as well. eClipse has to be careful not to overextend here. They could lose some tanks early that they don't want to, and Pop is taking out Mort. There it is.
HP is so heavily in favor of eClipse, though. As long as they get a gun or two down quickly, they should be able to clean this up.
Yep, and there it is. Drock going to take out X-Soldier. Meanwhile, the tanks of CD are all over T1 Diabetic, and he's going to go down. Interesting. So the 113, though, from the team of CD is still isolated all the way down there on the K line, finally starting to move up a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, that's Fixer.
No, he had some shots on to the 215Bs as they tried to kill it at 7. However, in the long run, he was very far out of the fight. He didn't have his HP in there, and he lost
nice
shots
shot
very
on the
quickly.
rename. I was going to say, if they could take out Master People and Tigers immediately, this would be a almost an even fight, but now Smiley Rage almost down in that bad shot. Pompous and Fixer are healthy. Unfortunately, though, the gun advantage is in favor of eClipse.
Yeah, absolutely. Drock does finally kill
nice shot.
Smiley Ridge, and this should be going in favor of eClipse, barring some sort of huge throw. Meanwhile, Drock trying to find Fixer reloaded.
Oh, Brett. Not going to go down to Pompous, unfortunately, regardless of how high that rolls, and he is now eating. He's catching hands, as we like to say. Fixer going to go down here in a moment, and it is going to be eClipse, tying it up 2-2. So here's the thing that kind of makes it for me, though, is if this trend continues where defense is always winning, that would actually give the team of CD the advantage technically.
Well, because here's the thing, is it goes to, in that case, under that logic, it would go to overtime, at which point overtime goes to the fastest attacking victory, and if not that, then it goes to most damage done throughout the series. So then we got to look at that.
Yeah.
I think that
But, I mean, overall, CD so far, they're not in a bad spot to play out the rest of the series at all.
Nope, but the next map being Steps, I haven't seen CD play it too much since their first match day, and eClipse have... they struggled on it last week versus, or not last week, but last time they played, I believe it was M60s on it. So let's see if they make the same mistakes.
And going into the damage, Vetro, again, showing why he is the top of damage. 3,800 added to that. And then Pompous, Drock, and Rename. A nice little switch between eClipse and Team CD, but overall the trades definitely went in favor of eClipse. And we can kind of see why here. The Grill doing a 2K, but not enough. And then Tigers in the 251 doing 1,200, respectable. Fortunately for CD, though, Maril and Smiley, both from bad shots, unable to really do the damage. And X-Soldier was putting out shots, but because of the situation he found himself in, was unable to really get the damage that he wanted to pump out. So,
yeah, no. So overall, though, I do like it out of eClipse. Very decisive game plan there. I like how it played out. They understood what they needed to do in certain situations. CD just kind of scrambled once the first tanks went down. They kind of found those isolations, and just they couldn't really claw back into it from that point.
Yeah, but I gotta say though, CD is not doing bad at all. I mean, even for scrambles, they're finding those trades where they need to. And although they lost that battle, they're really playing very solid.
Yep, they're making eClipse work for it at the very least. A lot of good stuff there. A few rounds, not so much. However, especially those middle 2 rounds, CD looked very, very solid. So we'll have to see if they can keep that up. You know, changing the scrim partners, the new strats seem to be at least kind of working out for them.
Again, I'm very curious, like you said, who exactly were they scrimming before?
May never know. So
I think we'll find out.
We'll find out eventually. Not tonight, though. So looking at it, though.
Unless CD wins, we can't ask the question. So,
yep. But I think eClipse, definitely I'd favor them going into steps, which if they can make it 2-0, then going into the fourth map, I'd definitely have to give it to them.
Yeah, and that's Cliff. So
Try not to say it.
well, I don't know if you follow WGLNA on World of Tanks, but they actually post so everyone can see what the actual maps are before we say them. So,
but that's only to the people that actually
anyways,
follow on the
let's go
Twitter.
ahead right into the next map.
Steps, the most open map in the league. The attacking team appears near the rocks at the bottom of the map, and the defending team starts at the top. Bases are located near the railway and on the green. The best way to control them is to use the lowland near the second base. The attacking team usually begins the attack from the rocks and the railway, but sometimes they can attack through the green. Teams often drag vehicles from flank to flank, so both teams usually pick light vehicles with a good camouflage rating, but sometimes use tanks with a strong turret and even SPGs.
Looking at the lineups, eClipse bringing 2 113s, 2 140s, 2 bat chats, and an RU 251. Meanwhile, Siebel to tweet 2 bat chats, an IS-7, a 113, 2 140s, and a 1390.
So a not so standard defense here from eClipse, as we notice that they are making a push towards the north, towards the 1-2-3 line. This is not usually where we see defense, usually sitting somewhere around the 7, 8, or 9 line. And already shots are being traded. But we are seeing the team of CD slowly back off, with some tanks moving those 140s towards the front.
T1 still trying to complete that climb up at A8, struggling a little bit. Meanwhile, Drock may get isolated here if the rest of the eClipse are not careful.
Uh-oh. This could be an overmatch here in favor of Team CD. X-Soldier, though, is taking quite a bit of damage. And any chances of that overmatch happening have quickly been dashed, as now the whole team of eClipse is set up. I've never seen a fight happen like this on this map.
Well, I like the response out of eClipse. They're making it very hard for people to tweet to go over if they want to push over onto the 140s. Those 113s and the bat chat are there to punish. So very, very good understanding of what CD would likely do and how to stop it. And HP is still just starting to skew a little bit in favor of eClipse.
And just like that, things have somewhat slowed down.
And the rest of the team from eClipse is joining Tigers, and I would expect to see them just dump over at B1 at any moment now.
T1 Diabetic doing a little twirl there. Avoids any shots, although they were being fired onto him. A lot of shots being rung out, but not a lot of pens. Finally, some coming on to Muriel here, as he might go down. Gabe now taking some shots on the Drock. He's going to take a little bit of damage. Here comes Tigers in the 140 coming over that ridge. The trade tracks and Vetro going to find the kill shot onto Gabe in the 1390. Now Muriel is going to be going down in just a moment here, as he is grossly overmatched. Fights going up all around, though. Still, it's not over, but eClipse is getting the better of all these. Tigers and Mort both taking down a tank respectively.
And Mort actually had fire there. It finally goes out. However, Pompous does find the kill.
Going to clean him up, though. Only 3 tanks remain now for Team CD. Meanwhile, there's still 5 up for Team eClipse, although Brett is 1 shot away from being taken down.
Vetro just going for the ram on the IS-7. Not really sure what the logic is there, other than just trying to do what damage he can. Pompous should find the kill on T1 Diabetic. Goes for the ram. It does pick up the ram onto T1. Meanwhile, Master People going for the ram.
This is just...
Smiley Ridge.
Good night, my friend. You fought hard. You fought well. You will not be forgotten.
Like the play there out of the eClipse. Very solid read. They have a clear understanding of what they need to do to play that north correctly and not be susceptible to an overmatch. If they were to dump over, they would have had all their guns sitting there ready for it. They used the RU-251 up on the boost. T1 Diabetic was almost done with it. And if they had tried to go for the cap over in the east, the T1 diabetic, excuse me, would have had the free resets, and so there was no real threat of being capped out. And they also were able to keep all their guns over there. They kind of ended up drawing CD into the engagement, and they kept them there, and they slow played it. And
yeah, I mean that was literally just eClipse not only reading CD right, but just kind of outplaying CD. That's exactly
slow
what
playing the angles correctly, just getting up on HP as they could, and they played it very well. So hats off to them.
Yeah, I mean, and just looking at the damage here, it's actually almost kind of even between both teams. As we see Smiley on top doing 28, and then Drock, Tigers, and Master People doing 26 to 2200. But then the spread kind of stays even going throughout both teams. So honestly, damage coming out for both teams, although it was eClipse just kind of finding the better of the exchanges and again, kind of outplaying CD there a little bit.
Yep, absolutely, and T1 Diabetic and that RU came in late with those bat chats and was able to do a lot of damage, 1800 out of an RU. It's not bad. Yeah. And the 1390 down there, Gabe only able to do 259, so not really able to get off a whole lot of shots.
No, not at all, and that is going to bring us to a 3-2 lead for eClipse over Team CD. I am very interested to see now how CD is going to play defense. I don't really think we're going to see anything crazy as far as what eClipse did, more of a non-traditional defense where they went north. It obviously worked for them. They played very well. CD, I almost want to guess they would play something a little too traditional to kind of be safe as they are in defense, and they want to make sure that they don't throw anything away. And that just might bring out a more aggressive lineup of eClipse, kind of looking at it here, and we'll have to see how that works out for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And looking at the lineups, nothing too surprising out of either team. A couple things to note, but nothing too crazy. And we are actually on to a second round of steps, not quite on Ruinberg yet. Actually, we already watched
We're not
Ruinberg.
going to see Ruinberg.
We already watched it.
We did.
So, looking at the lineups, though, eClipse bringing a 113, a 140, 3 bat chats, a grill, and an M4043. So, choosing for the Tier 8 artillery, trying to help soften up that defense of Siebel to Tweet, predicting they might go a little bit heavy. Meanwhile, Siebel to Tweet, a 113, 3 object 140s, 2 bat chats, and an RE251. Meanwhile,
interesting. So, we actually are seeing CD go for that north defense. This is something I really didn't think they would do.
CD playing the what's the song there? What you can do, I can do better.
Yeah.
There you go. So deciding
I can do anything you can do, but I can do it better. Yeah.
Yep. And being very aggressive. However, it does look like eClipse are ready for it. However, they do take some damage on the Morton Brett. Big shot out on the Smiley Rage.
Wow, Smiley Rage.
Taking a lot of damage.
Probably not smiling right now as he is gone.
Yeah, definitely going to be anything but a smile on his face.
A little more rage.
Yeah, I was about to say a little bit more rage than a smile. So, unfortunate for him there. Fixed Reloaded taking a shot in the background. And this is essentially how you counterplay this exact strat. Fixed Reloaded just getting shot up by everything. Almost going to go down.
He was almost like a little stationary target for them to just practice
2
on.
tanks in lead in favor of eClipse. eClipse doing a very good job at just pinning these tanks back here. It does look like we will see an RD versus an RU fight down in the south. However, Drock just fired, so he doesn't have the shell.
Not so
Gabe's going to sneak up on him
anymore. Goodbye, baby Drock. Live long and prosper, my friend.
But here's the thing, is eClipse, even with that artillery going down, still have the 2 extra guns up, or 1 extra gun at this point.
Oh, wait, he can't live long and prosper because he's dead.
So they can go find Gabe if they want to.
That's not good.
Sending that bat chat. They're actually also sending the grill to the south.
Just in case a bat chat isn't enough to take out a 251.
Send the grill 15 to go
Big Daddy
help out.
Grill. If he could get a track here, that would be most unfortunate for Gabe. Vetro still hasn't fired a shot. Oh, he gets one off, but unfortunately, no penetration. Oh, no, excuse me. Vetro didn't even shoot. It was actually Gabe that just turned around and flicked a shot on a Vetro. I thought Vetro had shot.
So now eClipse just slowing it down. They stack 2 tanks onto Cap. They're just going to leave Vetro in the south by himself.
Yep,
They
and
have
now we
the gun
see the
lead.
more traditional defense out of CD that I thought we were going to see just from the start.
So they know that they've already taken 1 batch shot down to almost nothing. They killed another 140 and they killed a 113. So they basically have a 3-gun lead almost, even with artillery being down.
However, CD finding a blind shot onto the tank of Brett and getting the reset, realizing that they had gotten the shot and landed the reset. Brett could take 2 more shots here. And X-Soldier is going to get lit.
No shots coming in, so he will be able to get the lights. Those batch shots may need to back off the Cap now that they know he's there.
Yeah, and a bounce off of him as he pushes forward.
However, they will know that Vetro's in the south, that he should have some pretty good shots on X shoulder. If he doesn't now, it'll just take another minute for him to reposition. But he does have to fire a couple onto Gabe.
Again, another bounce on X-Soldier off of that 140 and a miss now. He's going to back up. There
He's
we
gonna
go.
Get tracked. He will repair it. However, he's stuck in just a bad situation. He realizes he's not getting out of there.
So many different shades of dead. Unless, of course, he bounces the next shot, which is literally what I was about to say. I'm just kidding. I wasn't going to say that.
Yep, and now Eclipse are up by about 5,000 HP. It's all in their favor. They don't have to worry about a tank going to that spot anymore. They do know that Vetro's recently fired, so they are shifting some tanks towards the south. So he might get caught out there a little bit.
Five minutes left. Still actually quite a substantial amount of time to work with, given right now Eclipse's great position. It's looking pretty much impossible at this point for Team C to bring this back. Real is very low on HP. Gabe in the 251, the Tyriot Light. Although it looks like he has more than half his HP, realistically, that's 2 to 3 shots, depending on 2 of those high roll. It's
Vetro firing the first shot into the dirt.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Pompa's also now firing another shot into the dirt. Looks like these boys are digging, not actually playing tanks.
And then they're actually both going to run out of shells. Both running out of shells, both one-shotters.
Awkward.
And Eclipse, get the Cap.
Yeah, 42. Interesting. So, well, not so interesting, to be honest. I just said interesting just because I wanted to be interesting, even though that was a pretty straightforward match out of Eclipse. I mean, they dealt with their own defense quite well, I might add.
Yep, and that's one of the things that a lot of callers tend to do is they go, all right, let's come up with a strat. Let's walk it through. All right, we're going to do this, and then they'll sit there and they'll go, how do we beat
really
it?
Good strat, yeah.
How do we beat it? And they sit there and they work up. All right, well, what would we do if we wanted to break it? And that's pretty much what we saw out of Eclipse there.
That was textbook, by the way.
Yeah, and they understood, all right, let's not commit. They have tanks up here, but let's not pull everything back altogether. Let's stay close enough that we keep them back there. And then they started rotating around the edges, and they got tanks working over towards the other Cap, at which point CD knew they had to make a move. So they tried to push over, and they just took way too much damage. And then Smiley Rage got perma-tracked and got caught out. Then that 113 tried to make that aggressive play. He got punished for it by the bat shots.
Right.
And then the other bat shot popped up. I believe it was Murrell's popped up and just got pretty much obliterated down to a one-shot. And so it was just thing after thing after thing, just little mistakes, and it just tallied up in favor of Eclipse.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the damage, it is all Eclipse, aside from Pompous doing the best that he can for his team on the first top 7 spots, 2,200. The spread somewhat even. It was kind of a low-damage game, although we saw the trades heavily in favor of Eclipse. And then moving on to the second page, that is where you will find the rest of Team CD. Was dropping the M4043, even got the 8th place spot. And the problem is the damage for Team CD was just devastatingly low, horrendously low. You had the Pompous doing considerable damage, 1,900 in that bat shot, and then the next highest was Rename in the 140 doing 655.
Yep. Well, they really struggled once they got over there and they got spotted. There was no way for them to really trade out shots. They had to poke up and over. They didn't have any tanks with amazing gun depression. The 140s have some gun depression. Batchat's gun depression is not that great. 113 doesn't have any gun depression, and they were all in positions where gun depression was important in the position they're playing if they wanted to return damage. Because eClipse didn't just walk into that trap, they didn't get point blank to where they could just brawl. They, eClipse played it slow, and they made it really hard for those tanks from CD to kind of work around. And they had the artillery as well, so they were able to just sit there and pound them up there. And if it wasn't for...
even then, the artillery died early, they were still doing fine.
Yeah, exactly. Just imagine if that already hadn't gone down, though, and Gabe hadn't gotten around, then the artillery could have just sat there and fired and worked them down even worse.
All right, well, let's see if CD can take it into overtime as we head into the next map.
Cliff, the most dynamic map in the league. Battles on Cliff always turn into desperate double-edged fights. Teams start from the same spots as they do in standard battles. The first base is located near the defender's spawn point, and the second is at the bottom of the hill. Sometimes teams split their forces and send several tanks through the 1-2 line to the left of the small hill, but usually both teams play at the center. The attacking team can send one of the tanks up to the lighthouse or behind it. Fast and quick-firing vehicles are better suited for this map, mainly medium tanks, including tanks equipped with autoloaders.
Potentially the last battle of the night. 2 grills, really?
Yep, we've seen this
And
out.
that is for Team CD.
Yep, so CD come in with 2 Batchats, 2 TVPs, 2 grills, and a T-54 lightweight. Meanwhile, eClipse coming in with a TVP, 5 Batchats, and once again, Drock in that M40-43.
I think we've seen Artie on this map before, this season at least.
Occasionally. Definitely occasionally. Not something that we've always seen historically. Back when this map on 754, we almost never saw it because the maps were so quick, just lightweights brawling in the middle, essentially. However, with the map kind of slowing down a little bit, it kind of becomes a little bit more viable. Meanwhile, 2-1 Diabetic is actually going to do his best mountain gun impression, and try to get up on the side of this hill. Meanwhile, Mort's just sitting here looking out towards the 1 line, already took a shot of damage. Meanwhile, Vetro actually took a good bit of damage trying to get up towards that 1 line.
Yeah, CD finds themselves in about 1,000 HP lead, although it is small, it is still something to be excited about, I guess. Another thing to note is, again, we just talked about that M4043, the SPG or the Artie coming out of Eclipse. Essentially, when the HP pool deficit starts to become larger and larger, that M4043 or their Artie almost turns against them, as that's a tank that really, if the situation calls for it, is kind of useless.
Yeah, and Eclipse already have 2 one-shotter tanks. Those grills just pumping out a ton of early damage onto Eclipse, and they just haven't had any sort of response yet.
No, X-Soldier is the only one that's really bleeding on the team of CD. And that HP pool lead has become somewhat massive, almost 3K.
Mr. People doing what he can, tried to find some shots. It looks like it's the Batchat from Sequel to Tweet actually up on the hill. Actually, he's going to have to drop off as the TVP, 2-1 Diabetic, gets up there.
Yeah, Diabetic now. Eclipse is taking damage everywhere right now. Team CD doing a very great job of kind of controlling the map. And again, you kind of alluded to this, I believe it was last week on Thursday or Tuesday, that Cliff can be played very slow, although we weren't seeing it.
Yeah, we weren't, because a lot of them were going for those very aggressive strats, trying to catch the other teams off, and we saw that. And now teams are kind of realizing, well, this is just overly risky, so how do we play it safe? And a lot of these strats, like the one we're seeing out of Sequel to Tweet right now, they're not necessarily made to win, they're just made not to lose. And with those grills being able to pump out that much damage, they're showing exactly that. They've whittled Vetro and Brett down to almost no HP, so when the push does come out of Eclipse, they're just not going to have any HP to do it with. They're already down by almost about 4,000.
We'll have to see if Eclipse can claw back into this one. Still no tanks lost for either side, but clearly in favor of CD.
Oddly enough, CD actually have 4 tanks committed towards the south. Meanwhile, T1 Diabetic getting bullied out a little bit by Merle. However, Merle is isolated, and they may try to go for the engage on him if they can catch him out, and he actually bounces the first shot off. He does get the second one, doesn't get at the track.
And Merle's going to go down that slight slope, and he should be relatively safe now. Oh, as that Artie Fires out a shot. Muriel barely escapes that one.
It's so poetic if artillery just pulverizes him in the next round right after you say he's able to escape. But not the case. Missed the shot just a little bit, and Seal the Tweet looking still like they're in control. However, they haven't actually taken a gun out for eClipse, so they're not quite out of it yet.
It doesn't really look like CD is going to budge as they finally kill onto Vetro. And Brett is also going to fall. Master Pupil incredibly low. This is looking so bad for eClipse. There it is. Renaming the Grill. Going to find Master Pupil. Shots coming off the Arnie there. And Diabetic finding Muriel there. But still, it's almost a case of a little too late, as CD should be able to clean this up unless they decide, as you said earlier, they want to go be playing some baseball and throw this game.
Mort just going to try to chase down Fixer Reloaded. He knows that he's almost out. Nice track there from Fixer on the Mort, and Renaming the Grill actually picks up the kill.
Good night.
And it's all just down to Drock. With no HP left, the Smiley Ridge is going to come join in on the Artie hunt.
It's nothing like a good old Artie hunt, you know? It's really lube your gears, if you know what I'm saying. Ooh, that's unfortunate.
Gabe just saying, come and get me. Didn't even fire, even though he could have. And he misses. Knew that the rest of the guns were there to pick him up. Just playing a little game cat and mouse there with him.
So I just want to point out that if eClipse end up winning this in this next map, I mean, I predicted 5-3. And right now, 4-3.
Blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
That is rude, and I take offense, sir.
Good. So, looking at it, though.
Oh, hey, great job, Dustin. Great job, Godspeed. Really, your knowledge of the game is starting to really kind of show. Yeah, you make some mistakes. You're not the greatest, but you really show that you're caring. Wow, thanks, James. I really appreciate the fact that you would give me a compliment like that as we go into the rest of the match.
You just heard it from my words. Mm-hmm. So, there you go. So, looking at it, eClipse just never were really able to claw into that round. The Grill's just able to pump out way too much damage for them to withstand it. And that's kind of shown in the damage there.
Honestly, it's the first time I've seen two Grills kind of brought to cliff. And, man, it worked. It really worked. 2,900 damage coming out of Smiley, and then Rename doing considerably less, 1,000 less. But still 1,800, and he found good shots, by the way. He really did.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Both the girls did, but Smiley Rage was the one that really got some shots there onto Vetro and onto the other bat shot.
And we've really seen Smiley do a lot more damage ever since they brought in X-Soldier from Apex to start doing the calling, and it's worked. It's worked very well for Smiley and his damage.
Yep.
Meanwhile, real quick, I mean, you guys can obviously see it's going to be eClipse falling the very lowest end of the damage there. Breton and Vetro, as I look at this, did almost no damage at all in those bat shots. So,
yep. So something to note there: CD has actually called a timeout.
Okay.
So they will have an extra minute to figure out what they're going to do. They know there's a lot on this line. Do they take it to overtime, or do they get nothing right now? So they want to make sure that they get this next round right.
Because I believe if they lose this, even if it is in overtime, they fall out of second place to Aquatic M60s, who just won a match in overtime.
Correct, yeah. It was CD that called timeout, though, so not Eclipse.
So
CD,
even still, my statement stands.
Yeah, but so CD want to make sure that they get at least something out of this point. So this next round, it's the difference between 1 point with a chance at more still.
And Traverse, on the other side of things, if CD loses without getting any points, as you were saying, they're on the bottom. So this is big for both teams, I would say.
Because this also could be the difference maker for CD down on the bottom. If these are points that the other teams aren't able to pick up, and they go even with the other teams, this could be what separates the two of them and decides who gets to go to the online playoffs and who gets relegated home.
Right.
So a lot on the line, just more than another match. So we'll have to see what happens. CD... surprising, have broken out some rather interesting strats. Obviously, Steps was not their strong suit. However, their stuff on Ruinberg I was a fan of, especially that second strat. And then looking at this last round, I do like what I see there.
Yeah, playing very slow on Cliff. Well, not very slow, but just slow in general, slower than what we're used to seeing. I've also kind of noticed the shift is Mines was kind of the slow one played this season at the start of the season, the first round robin. And you told me that's not usually how it goes. And now we're seeing much faster plays on mines in general than we are on Cliff now as we head into the
it's
second.
kind of switch up. It's just how metas evolve. You know, they come up with one idea. So, for example, Cliff was just let's bring a lot of bat shots and let's just do risky splits and be very, very aggressive.
Which is pretty much the entire first half of the first round robin. That's exactly what happened. Tanks were just getting lit and destroyed left and right, and now
teams are sitting there looking for those aggressive splits. So what can we do to counter it? All right, so we play slow. We set up with this crossfire, and if they push in, we're ready for it. And so it's kind of shifted there, and it's the opposite with mines. All right, can we make this defense work? Yes. Now all of a sudden this defense isn't working. So what do? All right, we have to get more aggressive on defense. So it just kind of across the board makes these shifts. And we'll still see some of the old meta, some of the new meta, but this is just kind of in front of us, just how a meta evolves over time. So we are on to battle number 8. Eclipse could walk away with a win right now, or Siebel the Tweak could tie it up and force an overtime. And one thing I will note is just the HP deficit right off the get-go. CD has 1,000 HP lead just off the tank lineups. Looking at it.
Eclipse is still choosing to bring the M4043.
Absolutely, bringing 5 bat jets, TVP, and the M4043. Meanwhile, Siebel the Tweak bringing 4 bat jets, a TVP, and 2 tier 9 bats.
I don't know. I have this very strange relationship with Artie at this point in my tank's career, and that is because I started out playing Artie just because it was simple for me to understand. I didn't have to worry about simping for another tank or scraping or any of that stuff. Nice shot at a fixer. And then when I started to really understand the game and get more intricate in it, I started to really love playing heavies and mediums more so than I did Artie or even tank destroyers. And now, as I do enjoy tanks like the Batchat or the E5 or the IS-7 more, I find that we come back to this whole thing of Artie where it usually doesn't work for teams who bring it. I mean, it has, but most of the time, Artie, from what we've seen this season in the first round robin, has been kind of a dud.
And a lot of it has to do with the teams that they're playing being very aware that they're bringing Artie and figuring out how to play against it. In this case, it's just, all right, we know how to play his Artie safe angles. Let's make it very hard, and when we are in spots where Artie can hit, let's make sure that we're moving constantly.
Right.
They're not, opting to bring a lot of heavies.
And that's completely different than what you're going to see in pub play, by the way.
Oh, exactly.
Because playing Artie in pub is definitely, it can be enjoyable, I guess, if you're into that kind of sort of thing.
Yeah, and then there are even some rounds then where you just don't get any lights the whole round, or you're on a map.
Like Hemmels.
Like Hemmels, or I was going to say Ghost Town, that's on pub matches, or Colorado, or Kharkov, that's what map I was going for. Just maps that aren't necessarily Artie friendly just because there's so much cover, kind of make it hard to work.
You love playing against Artie, especially when you get ammo racked by a tier 8 Artie.
Yeah, that was so much fun. Just first shot of the game, blows up your ammo rack.
To be fair, I also, I think I followed suit right after that in the next game, and I got destroyed right by an M4043.
So it's one of those things where you kind of forget about it for that 1 second, and that's the one time where they're just zoomed in right on you, waiting for you to make that one little mistake, and
again, that's the thing.
Take advantage of it.
I just don't know how I like it in competitive play. Not that I think it's dumb. It's just I haven't really seen it work that well. And the times it's worked, it's only been a very select few. So.
Mm-hmm. And looking at it, another thing to talk about real quick is the Eclipse are on defense, and they're choosing for a very stagnant defense. They have that Batchat over at the B1 boost. They have a TVP up at A5. They have an artillery, and the rest of the tanks are just tucked in here on a very solid crossfire.
Ex-Soldier is trying to find shots as Fixer Reloaded slowly moves forward. T1 Diabetic is taking a little bit of damage. I'm assuming that was Fixer. Or excuse me, Ex-Soldier.
Yeah, but Ex-Soldier, knowing that T1 saw him fire, decided to drop his clip before he fired all of them and is already reloading.
And although slight again, starting out, CD has the HP pool advantage. And most of it is, in fact, again, due to what you said earlier, just starting out with that M4043, only 400 hit points. Not a lot. Had that been a medium, the HP pool advantage probably would be about the same right now. They'd be tied.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, these Batchats just pushing around in the south, trying to find shots towards the middle here. However, most of these tanks are still already safe. T1 Diabetic up on the hill, Master People behind some rocks. It's actually X Soldier that's going to take a bunch of damage in return.
X-Soldier is indeed almost dead. Never mind. T1 Diabetic finds the kill shot, and now he's looking on to Fixer to see if he can get as much damage as possible before his clip is out. There it is, although Fixer did eat quite a bit of damage, and he is now one-shot range.
So
just like that, it has been, the tables have been turned on CD as their HP is now no longer in the green area as far as advantage goes, and T1 Diabetic's really going to be backing off his hill. He doesn't have enough HP.
And the missed shot onto Pompous.
Oh, this is huge. Bork going to take out Rename. Here comes the fight. Master People taking out Pompous there. T1 Diabetic did get off that hill. He didn't have the HP to stay up there, or quite frankly, his clip, he wasn't reloaded yet, so he had to back off, and he did relatively safe. Master People going to find Smiley Rage, and now Gabe is going to be taken out, and that's going to do it. eClipse is going to win the series 5-3. I was right. That feels good. That's what that feels like.
I love the play there out of eClipse after they had 2 of their tanks were down. They only had 1 tank left alive with shots, and so what they did is they said, all right, we'll push up there. We'll make sure that he starts firing at us, and they allowed that last batch of, I believe it was Brett, who was a one-shotter, to start getting his shots off with minimal damage of going down in return. So great little team play there out of eClipse to finish this out. They're just hunting down Merle here in this bat chat. And he's just going to play the cheeky game, trying to get people to come jump after him. And we'll have to see if he gets the shot.
Damn it, James is cheeky. Oh, and here we go. Oh, dude, look at this belly flop. What's up, dude?
And eClipse just celebrating the win there. And now Vetro.
Vetro takes out Tiger.